Hey y'all, welcome to my doe down psychic monologue. Um I have to warn you out of the gate that I am going to be showing a couple of pictures and they're a little graphic. So if you have like a queasy stomach or you're not really into looking at graphic content, then you may want to just skip over that part of the video today, okay? So here we are with Shelby Raw, and this is actually a very raw story in my life that just happened this past weekend that I want to share with you, hence why I have some pictures and they're a little graphic. And I am going to kind of work through my process with telling you guys what happened, okay? So, my husband, Joe, has gotten into, well, let me back up the story a little bit. Okay. So, my husband has a friend who is a hunter. And around this time of the year, which is hunting season, this is when all of the men and women, okay, but of course, I'm speaking of my husband. So these men go hunting, right? So well, I don't know. If you've listened, I'm all over the place right now trying to get this story in my head to where I can talk about it because I'm like, "La, la, 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 what's happened over the last 48 hours?" Okay. But anyway, so long story short, my husband has always wanted land. All right. So over the last several years, we have been programming to bring in our land. Well, it just so happened that a year or so ago, my husband has a friend who has 350 acres of land that he leases. Okay. And so he brought it to my husband and said, "Hey, do you want to go in on me on this lease? And we can split the lease and of this land." And so I told my husband, I said, "Yeah," I said, "You've got to go for that. You've got to this is the beginning stages of really bringing in what we want to bring in for land. So whatever we need to experience with this land is what we need to do." So anyway, he goes in half on this lease. Well, this land that he leases is for hunting season. Okay, like it's deer hunting. That's what this guy uses it for. And it's been in his family like leased for over 20 years. And so there's a lot of energy on the property. The deer stands are already set up. Like there's like all this kind of stuff already really on this land. So um as the years gone on and deer hunting season has been upon us and everything, then Joe, my husband, was just really getting to this place of, um, I need to do this. I need to I really I need to learn how to hunt because if God forbid if anything were to happen, and we had to kind of go back into tribal ways, I need to know that I could provide for us, for my family. And I said, "Well, absolutely." I said, "Because this is a rite of passage. This is on a spiritual level tribal knowledge. This is how they did it back in the olden days." And so he went through this whole entire journey of what it's really like to become a hunter. Now, just for some other information, my husband was basically raised by his mother and aunts. So his dad wasn't really in the picture. So he missed a lot of things that a father would actually teach their son. And so Joe was kind of going back in time and he's been picking up these energies and these experiences in other ways in order to close the gap, fill the holes with some of the male rites of passage that happen when a boy becomes a man. Now, because Joe has been on a spiritual journey his whole entire life, especially since he was 16, okay, and met our mentor, then he's really had this spiritual path, right? So I knew for him that he was not going to be able to go out and just hunt. He wasn't going to be able to just go out there and hunt and shoot to kill. You know what I mean? Like, it was going to have to be in alignment. It was going to have to be in of the highest and best of whatever the hunt was about, whatever on a spiritual level that energy was going to be about. And I knew that he was going to have to be in the utmost total alignment for this if he was actually going to shoot to kill in the hunt, because I knew it would affect me, because I'm on a spiritual path and I'm going to have to reframe all this. This is what I was telling myself back several weeks ago, right? I was just like, oh my God, like, I'm just about love, let everything live, like, so I was like, I really know that you need to do this, babe, but I'm gonna have to really reframe like everything in my head, to get back to my uh Native American roots, like, I mean, hello, I mean, I was born in Oklahoma. Okay, so I'm sure in a past life somewhere I've been an Indian and, killed buffalo and stuff, but I mean, in this life, I'm like, I'm really gonna have to work on this part. I'm really gonna have to get okay with this. Um, Even though I eat meat, which is really weird, but I don't watch how they slaughter. You know what I mean? Like, it's like all this stuff that happens when you're on this ascended path. So anyway, I rallied behind Joe and I was like, you know what? I want you to do this. You need to do this. Even if you don't catch anything, shoot anything, whatever, you need to do this because you need to have this rite of passage. This is the boy to a man. Okay. This is that whole thing that you missed. So Joe does not go at anything halfway. Okay. He's like me. Like, if he puts his mind to something, he does it, he's all in, and that's just the way it's going to be. So he had already been going through the whole firearms route, a couple years ago, especially when all the riots were happening and all this craziness was going out here. He was already buying a safe for the house, researching different firearms if he had to go into the protection mode. We got our license to carry stuff, and have gone to the shooting range and shot the firearms and things like that. And we did that because even when you're in a spiritual movement of life, we still live in the human world. And in the human world, there are people that are not good people that still do very bad human things because they're not connected, they're not living in that highest space of love and light. And you can put your walls up, you can put your boundaries up, you can grid your house, you can do all kinds of things and really work your psychic energies to be in the protection. Yet at the end of the day, you still have to be in rapport with what is happening on some level because you're human. So you're in rapport with it, right? Because we're still living on the planet. It's not like we've just ascended and we're just like, oh, I'm just going to watch from above and just, oh, that's not affecting me at all. It's like, no, this stuff still affects us. So he and I went through this whole process of, let's get our license to carry. We're going to, have what we need to have. If anything ever happened and we had to protect our space, we would be able to do that, even though we carry this other vibration of like, why can't we all just get along and things of that nature. But over the last several years, we realized that at the end of the day, people are going to be people. People are going to do what they're going to do, especially if they're not on a spiritual path. And no amount of love and light is going to stop that. Sometimes when someone's just out to do bad things, right? So you do have to live in this reality that there are at moments in time where you do have to take precautions. You do build your boundaries. You do build the arsenal of that protection and safety. So when I noticed that Joe, being the man of the house, being the protector, being the provider, was moving along this path of, okay, the world out here is getting cattywampus. The world out here is getting crazy. And if it came to defending my home, defending my family, I need to make sure that I'm on the front lines with whatever this would be that I need as tools to defend and protect, right? So this is kind of how this all got started. Okay, so it really got started with all the firearms. And I had to move through a place in my world where I was just getting okay with the firearms because, I don't like guns. Okay. Again, I'm like, can we just hug people? But then at the end of the day, I'm like, some of these people do not want to be hugged, and they just want to kill you. You know what I mean? So I had to move through this space in my human of, okay, I can get behind having the firearms in the house. I can get behind having the safe to lock the firearms in the house. I can get behind learning how to use that. If anything happened, I would be able to protect myself even if Joe was not in the house, right? So, and you have to even pay attention like how many break-ins are happening in people's homes these days. I mean, things are just getting really crazy. So, I moved through all of that. Okay, then we bring in this land, okay, with his friend offering for Joe to go into the lease of this land. And then from there it was about, okay, deer, like deer season was going to be showing up, right? So then Joe went through this process of, okay, well, what do I need? What do I wear? What kind of boots do I need? What kind of tools do I need? What kind of ammunition would I need? I need to take my hunting uh course, so he could get his hunter's license. And I mean, there's just this whole like process to hunting. Whereas for me, I used to think, oh, it's just a bunch of renegades going out on a piece of land and they're just out there shooting things to shoot things. I didn't really understand that there's this entire ethical process to hunting. And there really is. So at first I just kind of thought people just go out on land and shoot things and then they just brag about everything that they shoot. And then as I've been watching Joe go through this process, I'm like, this is really intricate. Like this is the easiest way for me to describe it would be, okay, I woke up really fast in my energies. So I built my spiritual school curriculum, right? So I built the 9 courses that have to do with what happens when your energy wakes up, right? Well, in hunting, it's like the same thing. There is a process that has been built to educate people who want to hunt. And there's rules and there's laws and there's ethics and there is accountability. And it is brought forward that if you hunt, then you do shoot to kill. You don't shoot to wound. You don't shoot to suffer. Like there's uh the backing, I guess, of it that you're hunting because you're getting the meat, you're providing for your family and things like that. So there's even rules about like every deer season. I found this out. You can only shoot to doe, and doe are like the female deer, okay? Or the smaller deer, right? And then you get, so like what I've learned is you have tags, like out here in the hunter's world, they give you like 4 tags, which is like 4 tickets, right? You go to you go to the amusement park and it's like, here's 4 tickets to ride 4 different rides. So in the hunting world, it's like, okay, here's 4 tags. You can do 2 doe, smaller deer, female deer, whatever, and then you can do 2 bucks, and that's it. And then, but you can shoot in Texas at least as many hogs as you want because hogs are like everywhere. Okay. So, but with deer season, it's very regimented. So, like this past weekend, which was the weekend of the 25th. Yeah, because it was the 25th. So the November 25th, this was the last weekend that they could shoot female deer, doe. And it's because they're going to be pregnant, right? So it's been like the mating season or whatever. So there's even like a cutoff of when you can start hunting doe, and then when you cut off that hunting for doe because those females will be pregnant, so they're off limits, so they can go through their year and give birth and do whatever it is that they need to do, right? So there's even an ethics in the ecology for that piece that I didn't even know existed, okay? And then so then like Joe said, you can hunt buck, which is the male deer, the big antlers or whatever. So you can hunt them through, is it January? Is it January or February? It's like through January or February, something like that. You can get buck, okay? And then, like I said, in here, at least I know in Texas, you can get hogs like whenever. And because the hogs are awful here in Texas, they're awful. Okay, and they're dangerous. They're like mean. So and they ruin a bunch of farm crops too, by the way. So once I kind of learned, like when Joe took his hunting course and he was telling me things about it, I was like, okay, okay, I'm getting there. I can get behind this. This is, yeah, I get it. I get it. Okay. There's rules. I feel better. People aren't just out there shooting to kill, whatever. They have to tag them. There's a process. If the game wardens came, I mean, you have to show proof of stuff. And if you did something to violate one of the rules of law, there's fines, and there's like this whole process, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm behind this because it's in the best for humans that are hunting because they're doing meat and providing, and I'm seeing way more people doing that, because before I just thought people were just going out just to shoot to kill and not shooting to kill to bring farm to table. Do you see what I mean? Like I kind of missed the whole farm to table thing back in my judgment days of hunting, because the only thing I could get my head around was like, oh my God, you're killing Bambi. You know what I mean? So in my wisdom, I'm like, okay. I'm getting behind this now. I get this, right? Because everything's so industrialized now that we don't watch our food get killed. We don't kill our food. It's so industrialized now that, I mean, honestly, what we eat from the grocery stores is more inhumane than going out and hunting, getting your own, and only having enough for what you need for the year. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm even getting to that place. So, who knew I would get so much wisdom in my later years of this? But, so let's fast forward. So Joe begins this hunting like 7, 8 weeks ago. Okay. I mean, he's rented the camping trailers, taking it out on the land. He went through that piece because, like, where's he going to stay? And then he just kind of moved to the hotel because just for honestly, it was like cheaper instead of having to rent the RV because we're not doing the RV right now. Okay, but instead of renting the RV, and then his friend has like an RV on the property, but it's like small, it's one person, whatever. So, anyway, so I told Joe, I said, okay, so you've moved through the whole, this is my first weekend I'm going hunting. I've rented an RV. I've attached it to the back of the truck. I did the whole thing in the woods. Yada yada. This is so cool. To oh my god, that's a lot. That's a lot of money. That's expensive. That's a lot of gas to pull. That's or to spend on pulling it and all this other kind of stuff. And we're not going to go buy an RV right now. So then it was okay. It's just cheaper to rent a room in town, stay at the hotel, go to the land, hunt. Whatever. So this is what he's been doing over the last seven weeks now, right? And so each time he's gone out to the land, because he's gone 6 out of the 7 weeks, I think is how many weeks he's gone. And each time I could tell, oh, we're reframing something. Oh, okay, we're reframing something again. Oh my God, we're reframing something again. Because every time he goes out of town, the energy hits me, and then I see it, and then I have to run it through, and then I have to help him align. And then, so it's like this whole thing. And I'm like, so last weekend, I thought, and I've been also working with a friend of mine to help Joe align. And so I'm like, babe, you've got to get something. Like this was last weekend. I thought for sure, he'll see the deer or something will happen because his friend already got two doe. And that was a couple weeks ago. So I knew Joe was going to get something because Joe always gives it out before he brings it back to himself. So when his friend got two doe, I went, oh, okay, I see how this is going to go. So last weekend, I thought Joe was going to have the deer, and that didn't happen. Well, he didn't even see any. And it was really kind of sad because as he was talking to me when he was coming home 2 weekends ago, he was like, even though his friend was saying that some people go several seasons and never see a deer, never take the shot, or whatever, it happens. Like it's hunting. It's just, it's what happens. But Joe said to me, he said, I don't want to come home empty handed because I need to know I can provide. And when he said that to me, not this past weekend, but the weekend before that, when he was there, I knew. I was like, "Oh my god, he's going to have to do this." Like he's like I've already been through the whole run animals run, like save yourselves everybody, to doing the whole let me lure them in, and I've been through the whole thing of like, okay, babe, you've got to have a contract with the deer. Like you have to have like whichever one chooses to do the sacrifice with you, there's a contract. And animals are spirit. So it's you dropping the spirits in there and then having the contract play out, or they will never show up, right? So I've been through that process with him. So when they weren't showing up, I was like, well, we're not there yet. We're not there because I'm doing the hunt too. It's a spiritual hunt. And so I'm like, I've got to line up with you and you've got to line up with me. And then we'll be able to, do the hunt together as a couple, right? Even though I'm staying home. All right, but I'm holding the space energetically for you, okay? And I have a friend that I'm running all of this through as well. So we're very, very psychic. We're really working on this, okay? And so here came this past weekend. And so I actually ran it through my friend that's been running this with me the entire time with Joe. And then I ran it through another friend. And so this was over Thanksgiving because he was leaving the day after Thanksgiving, which was Friday the 25th. So I was like, all right, ladies, like this has to happen. I need him to do this. Like I need him and my friends and I, we were just like, Joe, even if you do a squirrel, something like take the shot, like Squirrels would be good. We'll start with squirrels. Okay. Like my friend was like, Joe, just start with a squirrel. And then, of course, Joe's friend was like, right, yes, we could do squirrels. He's like, and I'll teach you how to make, he goes, I'll make squirrel dumpling for us. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm like, of course he's going to do that because his friend shoots to kill to eat. Okay. So he knows, and he's been doing this for 20 years because he had a dad that raised him how to do all this. So he has been teaching Joe all of this. And so I was just fine with the squirrel. I was like, okay, good. We're at squirrel. Um, so anyway, so he goes, he's out there on Friday. And my entire right side had been killing me for like a week. Okay. Like I went and had a massage the week before, and I had her work on the back, kind of where the stomach is, because I knew like there's some emotion in there that has to get out. So she was like working my back and my leg and all this other kind of stuff. Well, it opened up all of this feeling, all of this emotion. So my body has been trying, it's almost like labor. My body had been trying, because I'm better now, but had been really trying to push all of this out. So I told Joe, I said, oh my gosh, the way my right side is feeling, the way my ovaries are feeling, I mean, the way everything's feeling, I'm like, you're ready. You're ready to do this. And so I was like, just go get it done. Whatever you have to do. Okay. Get it done. So he goes off on Friday and he left early. I mean, he left at like 6 a.m. because he's like, if I get up and I leave here and I get to the land, I can hunt. I can still hunt in the morning. I can get an extra hunt in, and then I can hunt Friday night if I need to, and then Saturday, whatever. So I was like, perfect, go, just get this done. So he leaves, and well, at 5:40 p.m., I have a picture of what had happened. So, but it was a little bit before that. So maybe what, 5:20, 5:15, I don't know. It was 5 something. Okay. I'd have to go back and look at my text message. Well, maybe I should look at my text message. Let me see if I can. I don't know. The time is really important. Okay. So I'm going to tell you what he said. Here we go. Okay. Okay. Oh, here it is. Okay. So it was Friday, November 25th, 2022, because some people will be watching this on a whole other year. Okay. And it was at 4:56 p.m. And he sends me a text and he says, just got 2 deer. And then he did the bam sign, the fire bam sign, whatever. And I'm like, what? Oh my God, you just shot 2 deer? And he goes, I did. And so even his language, it was like, just shot 2 deer, bam. And then I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And he's like, I'm like, you did? I did. Like I'm like, is he in shock? What's happening? And I had just put Spirit, we have a bunny. Okay. Joe is a rabbit in Chinese astrology. So we have a bunny, a white cottontail named Spirit. And I had just put Spirit outside in the backyard. She has this whole rabbit run that we let her out at night. So I had literally just put her outside. So as I was taking Spirit outside, he got the deer. Not one, two. Okay. Joe's a Gemini. He does things twice. All right. Remember, the friend had already gotten 2. So I knew Joe would probably get them all in one swoop. So I said, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, babe, how do you feel? And he says, heart is pounding, LOL. Just walked back to get the 4-wheeler. And I was like, was it a clean shot? Because, of course, now I'm going into the whole like, oh my God, please tell me it was a clean shot. And he goes, yep. And I said, so you shot and they died immediately? So in my spirit, I'm like, please tell me that they did not suffer. You know what I mean? And he goes, one did, the other spooked and ran behind me, and I popped again for mercy. Oh, that's what they call it, the mercy shot. and it dropped. And I said, "Oh my God, babe, you're a hunter." And he goes, "But I think the second one was a clean, but I think the second was clean too, just adrenaline pump." And I said, "So are you picking them both up and taking them back to camp?" And then I let him know. I was literally putting spirit outside when you shot those two deer. I had just walked in and saw your text. I just realized that. And he said, "Yes," meaning I'm picking them up. And then he said how his friend was proud of him and both were perfect shots, and that the one that ran was pure adrenaline. So basically, he shot the first one, and it was instantaneous. But the second one was also instant, but what he was explaining to me is that sometimes when you shoot, the adrenaline releases and then they kind of run, but they're not like there. It's just like the body kind of reacting. So then I'm like, "I'm so proud of you. I know this is huge." So, I'm over here going, I'm so proud of my husband because he went out and he hunted and he shot, he killed, and it was clean and there was no suffering. Okay. And he's providing, he's going to be providing all of this meat. And then I was on the other side of it going, "Oh my God, please tell me they didn't suffer." But I knew he would never be able to take the shots. He would never even see the deer if it was not aligned in the spirit. Okay. And of what the hunt was going to be for him. Because I do believe that we kill off energies every day, right? And I knew, okay, he's going to be releasing some energies through the hunt, the right hunt, will show up. So then he sends me the picture. So are you ready for this? Okay, I gave y'all 30 minutes without the visual. Okay, this is the graphic part. Okay, so I'll put this on the screen. Okay, but this was the picture he sent me right after that. So there we go. Okay. Now, so he sends this to me, and this was at 5:40. So at 4:56 is when it happened. Okay. And then that's the four-wheeler that he bought. I forgot about that. Yes. So he had also bought a four-wheeler for this whole hunting extravaganza. Okay. So there's our four-wheeler, nice and dirty, but it's honestly brand new. You can see his rifle sitting on the handlebar rack there. And it ended up being that the doe in the back was actually the mother. And then the one that's on the front was actually like the child. Okay. Um, but he said that it looked like the one on the front he thought was also another doe, but it was actually uh moving towards a buck because the antlers were just coming through. So it was probably like a couple years old or something like that, is what he said. So, and there were no other deer around. Like those were the only two. So even Joe was like, so it was like a mother and a son. Okay. And Joe was like, "Well, I even feel better because like no one's going to miss them." Nobody was around. Like there wasn't a buck around. There wasn't any other deer around. It was just kind of like mom and son walking around. And they both went together. You know what I mean? So he's like, even in his rationalization, wasn't like he only got the mom and then couldn't get the son, and the son walks around, "Where's my mom?" Kind of a thing. So, even in that, he was like, okay, like whatever. And I asked him, I said, "Did you have any emotion? Did anything come through?" And that's when he was telling me. He was like, "No, my heart, I was just pounding or whatever." So then I said, "Oh my God, babe, I'm in tears. I'm so happy for you." So I was in tears, happy for him. And then I was in the tears of like blessing the deer. You know what I mean? Like, thank you and in gratitude and all this other kind of stuff. And then I was like, and then I go into straight reality and I'm like, that hole is massive. So if you look at the one on the front, look at that hole. I'm going to go to a full picture here. Oh, well, that didn't intensify it. But if you look, I don't know if you can see that. That's the exit wound right there. So what happened is the what happened put it back on there. What happened is when he shot and it was a clean shot, it went straight through. And like I said, that's the exit wound. And he said that's probably what made it run, because it's not like it just like with the mother, it went in and shattered internally, right? But with this one, it went straight through. And so that's why I think there was like more of that adrenaline movement or whatever. So, so he's telling me that was the exit wound, and he said that his friend said that they were both perfect shots. And I said, of course they were. You wouldn't have done it any other way. And I said, well, I'm definitely releasing because I cried when I saw the picture and it was of gratitude. I said, I'm so proud of you, babe. This is more than any normal hunting experience. You earned that. And I am so grateful to the deer that showed up for you. And even my friend Liz was like, I was sending her the pictures and I was like, oh my God, because we knew this was his outcome. And my friend Liz is from like Vermont. And so, she's prepping him and she's like, come on, Joe, come on. Blah, blah, blah. She's giving him all this hunting, words of wisdom and advice. Like, I mean, we were all rallying around him. Okay. And I said, so even Liz said that this was that you're a clean hunter, right? So then he sends me this next picture. Okay. So here's the next, oh, hi, Charity. There's Charity. You see Charity over here? How do I get out of here? Mom is speaking about hunting. Okay. Okay, here's the next picture. So this is the next picture. So this is his, and he says, I got baptized. So, and this is just from picking up the deer. Okay. This isn't like, because he wasn't standing next to him when he shot him. So this was just, picking up the deer, getting him on the four wheeler. And so I thought to myself, like in tribal cultures, they usually eat the heart or take a bite of the heart, because they're paying homage to the animal and, things of that nature. Because in tribal culture and tribal tradition, you shot to kill and do it with gratitude, because whatever you were shooting to kill with that animal was providing not just the food, but it was providing tools and just blankets that could be made out of the hide and things of that nature. And we've really moved away from that because we've become so industrialized, so commercialized. But even in that tribal knowledge, there is that respect for the animal, and not what we've been made to believe out here, that, killing and hunting is like magnified and glorified and like, ha, I killed something because I'm angry. It's like, that's what it's become. But what we're moving back into is the respect. Okay. So even for him to have said, I got baptized, it was like he's baptized in the blood of the deer who showed up for him to get his spiritual learning, for him to get his rite of passage, for him to step into the boy to man scenario, provide for family, and God forbid anything happened in this world. And we had to go back to that because Lord knows, look at our food chains, look at our food supply, look at, how they treat animals now. And the more spiritual you become, the less you can eat in the matrix of the food that is prepared, because it is so uh brutal, okay, and inhumane, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So, so anyway, I've been learning from this. And then I even told Joe, my friend Liz said, yes, everything looks clean and respectful. And I was saying to Joe, this is on the right side. And that's everything that I had been working through on my right side with the energies and the feelings and the emotions. And so he said, with the deer, he said, yes, I already gave both of the deer lots of gratitude. So I knew there was going to be a lot of gratitude in the energy of the meat of the deer for the sacrifice, right? So, so then he texted me at 8:36. So this was 6 or 7, so about 3 hours later, and he said, "Just finished cleaning them." And then I was like, "Okay, wow, is all the meat gonna fit in the cooler?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm guessing it's almost like 50 pounds." And he said, "I'm going to make us chicken fried steak and eggs for dinner Sunday night." And I'm like, "Oh God, now I gotta eat it." And then my friend is like, um, uh, my friend Liz was like, "Shelby, because the my only time experiencing deer meat, I didn't like it. It was like gamey, and I don't even remember where I tried it, but I was like, "Oh God, I can't eat that." That was like back in my 20s or something. And so I've had this judgment of like, I don't think I can eat this. And then my friend was like, "You have to eat this. Like, this is why he did this. Like, he's providing. Like, that's how you need to show respect to the deer. They gave their life. Like, it would be an insult not to eat their meat." And then I started crying when she told me that. And I'm like, "Oh my God, you're so right. Oh my God, you're so right." And I'm like, I'm gonna have to reframe even more, you know? And so Joe was like, "Oh, I'm gonna make it really, so good. Like, you'll see." And then he even texted, he said, "Thanks to all of my my witches for helping me, his psychic people, like getting him lined up." And because he said, "Thank you for all my witches lining me up," is what he said. And I said, "It took a village. It took a village to line you up." That's what I told him. It took a village. Okay. And so then he sends me the next picture. Okay. So now here's the next picture. So this is him, like, so there's this thing there on the land so they can drain the blood or whatever. And I guess that's the thing, is they hang them up by the necks. Okay. So this is the picture of that, because I guess they're going to skin them and then, get all the meat and whatnot. And so what's really interesting is, like, if you go back to this picture, he doesn't look the same. Like, like, whatever happened when he did this, I told my friend, I went, "Oh my God, he doesn't look the same." Like, he's it changed him. Like, this has now changed him, like, forever, right? And I was leading him up to that. Like, I was leading him up to, okay, when this happens, something's going to shift. You're going to change. Everything's going to be different with you. Like, this is like you're taking life. And so things will change. So then you go to this one, and I'm like, "Wow, he's really changed." And he has, because even as the way he talks now, like, he's like, the only way, oh, I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, so I asked him, I said, "Are you going to be done for the weekend? Are you coming home? Like, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, I can still do a buck or whatever." And I was like, "All right." And he goes, "But these are my two doe tags." And I said, "Okay." So we go through that process. So this is him hanging up the deer, right? So I kind of just let it be the rest of the weekend until he was driving home on Sunday. And then we were talking, and he said to me, he said, "Well, I have the two deer head in the back of the truck, because I guess according to how this all works is you have to, like, what you shoot and kill, and once the heads are removed, you have to tag them, like, with these paper things or whatever, and to where you can prove what their sex is and all that. Because and then, because if you're transporting them, which is what he was doing, so he was taking it from the private land that we lease, driving it back home, so the deer head were in the back of the truck. And so if anything were to have happened, if he would have gotten pulled over, if the game wardens came out or whatever, he legally, has these deers tagged. He can prove what sex they were, that he was within the confines of the law for the hunt and all of that. And then when he got home, he could dispose of the heads. And I'm like, "Well, how do you dispose of the heads?" And he was like, "Well, I've just then you can just toss them in the trash or whatever." And I'm like, "Really?" And I'm thinking to myself, these heads are so big, but they're not. So when he got home and I looked, Okay. So this is another graphic picture. So you can see there in the back here, hold on. You can see there in the back, okay, there's the mom, she's the bigger head, and then the child, baby deer, was next to her there. And then over to the left is the skin. And so he does want to take that and do something with that because, this is his first experience. So he said he does want to have it tanned or whatever they do with that. And then this bag is literally all of the meat. So as he was taking it out of the cooler and showing me, I was actually taking pictures of each part, which I know seems kind of like odd and bizarre, but it was like I felt like I needed to do that to respect the deer as they were laying there and the spirit of it and all kinds of things. So it was like I had to capture in the pictures like every part, okay, that was removed, okay? So it was kind of like me putting the feminine version on there. And then so then when that was all done, okay, and he takes everything inside, like, I mean, because I was even asking, like, what part of the deer was this and what part of the deer is that? And, so I was asking, and I was shocked at how clean it was. I was shocked there was no smell. I was shocked that like, I mean, like he said to me, he said that's the whole thing, is that the everything is so clean, like, and it makes you wonder, like, the meat you get from the store and all of that, like, how it smells. And like, I mean, and this was just clean, and that's what he kept reiterating to me. He's like, babe, this is so clean. He was like, I went out there in the wild and I shot this, and they're just clean. It's clean, everything's clean. Like, he goes, even smell my hands, like, and I'm like, oh my god. I was smelling into his hands, and I'm like, you're so right. And he goes, and if we handle the meat when we're making hamburger or steaks or something, he's like, your hands, they don't smell like this, they smell, and I'm like, you're right. And he's like, I can't believe how clean this is, I can't believe how lean it is. And I'm like, you are so right. And so he's showing me like the back strap of the deer, that would be like the fillet part of a cow and whatnot. And so I've really been wrapping my mind around this whole, why people are now raising their own chickens, their own cows, and why people go and hunt for deer or buffalo so they really can stock their freezers, because it's just better on the body, and something that you shoot to kill, to eat within the law of hunting, and you preserve that, you're putting your energy into it. It's a better spiritual process than what's happening to these chickens and cows that are being mass produced and staying in these stalls that they never get exercise and everything, and we're eating all of that. And so when I really look at it in the food chain of how all this is happening, I'm like, oh my God, we really do need to start living more off the grid. We need to do more of our own raising and processing, and to come away from this mass production that's happening, because more and more people that do that, then the less those animals have to suffer because of how they are treated. And then we're eating that. We're eating that energy. And that's why when people get onto a spiritual path, they have a hard time. And I went through this phase, having a hard time eating more of what's just slaughtered, with no spiritual ethics involved, because you feel all of that. So when you first wake up, you really feel a lot of that, until you get to a place where you're just like, kind of move past that, but this was a completely different experience for me. So he took the one of the meat from the side of the spine, of the younger deer, and he made the chicken fried steak. Now, you're going to see a bunch of other crap on my plate. here's leftover Thanksgiving green bean casserole, leftover macaroni corn casserole, and then I have mashed potatoes here. But so this is the steak right here. Okay, so that's what he did. And I wish I would have taken a picture of it cut, but I didn't think about that. And I was shocked. Like I when I before Joe made the actual chicken fried steak, he just took a little bit of the meat and he just put it in a little pan with olive oil and cooked it up. And then he cut, and all I heard was, "Oh my God, dear Mary of Jesus," like I can't believe how good this is. And I'm like, "Oh my God, what is happening in the kitchen, babe? Are you okay?" And he's like, "Babe, you have to try this." And internally, I was like, "Be a supportive wife. Be a supportive wife. These deer gave the life for your husband to move through his rite of passage. Shelby, you can do this." Because I'm very picky about food and I'm very picky about meat. Okay. And so I was just like, "Okay, Shelby, you can do this." So he gives me this little piece and he's like, "This would be like the filet," because I like filet mignon. Okay. So I don't do ribeye and gristle and I don't do all that. And so I have to do filet. It has to be really lean because if anything gets in my mouth and I feel like it's cartilage and I'm I can't do that. So he gives it to me and I chew it and I could not believe it. I was like, "Oh my God, babe." I said, "There's no flavor or seasoning at all on this?" And he's like, "No, I just cooked it up in the olive oil." And it was like butter. And I'm like, "Oh my God." I'm like, "That is so good." But when I took like a bite and then it kind of like was moving through, and then I took a second bite and it was moving through, I got like emotional in the sense of gratitude because that first bite that I had, I could see both of the deer. And then I saw Joe. And then I saw the contract of it. And then I saw the processing of it. And then I saw everything. And then I just was overwhelmed with gratitude. And so it was one of those things where I had the experience without having to do the kill, if that makes sense. So it kind of like took me back into my Native American heritage where I could understand why when you shoot the animal, you take a bite of the heart or something because you're honoring the passing of the animal. And so when Joe gave me that first bite before he made it into like chicken fried steak, okay, or chicken fried deer, then I got that piece. Like that piece went in for me. And and then it reframed in me the whole entire hunting experience. So I I had to do this video for you for myself. Let me just be honest. I had to do this video for myself because I had to put it into giving it giving the information out so I could process more of my experience through Joe's experience and really put something out here in the world that has the proper context to deer hunting, farm to table. And even when Joe said last night, he was telling our son, he said something like 48 hours from farm to table or something like that. Yeah, because it was Friday night. So it was 48 hours. So it was like, yeah. So he was like, less than 48 hours farm to table. And when I heard him say that to our son, when he was talking to him or whatever, it clicked in my head and I went, "Oh my God, farm to table." Like, whoa, okay, this is how it works. Because these farm to table restaurants are popping up and all of the food is fresh. So it's like, there was just something in it that shifted for me. And so in this part of my spiritual journey and this part of my spiritual waking up process, I'm grateful for the male in my world who never had this growing up, but he has it now because I was able to experience it. So in my waking up process, different, I was able to go into that experience with him for my knowledge, for my wisdom, and relate that to the judgments that I had about it, the misinformation that I had about hunting, the emotional piece that I had towards, hunting and killing and all of that, right? Because we get indoctrinated with all of these things in our head. So I had to really work myself through this process. So that's why it was important for me to sit down and go, okay, this is my Shelby Raw video for the week because this is real life, this is real time, this is real experience. This is not someone, my husband is not someone who has hunted for years and years and years and years. Okay. This is a raw, new experience of my husband hunting for the first time ever in his life and going through this experience. And once you go it through it once, it changes it, right? So it's not always going to be the same. But I asked him, I said, "Well, what did you feel, or, what's the um what's the what's coming off of the hunt?" And he said, "I felt connected." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And he said when he took the shot, he felt something in his chest release and he felt something in his solar plexus release. And I was like, "Wow." And then he said, I got it. He said, I don't know how to explain it except other than I got it. I felt connected. I felt connected to the earth. I felt connected to nature. I felt connected to the animals. I felt connected to the food supply. It's like, he goes, I just felt connected. And then that's when I got it. And I said, I think I get that because women do connection when they do birth and they push out the baby. I said, you just did connection through hunting and providing, right? So it really made sense to me when he said that. And that was the male version for him versus what the female version is for myself. So he got there in some way with his spirit through that experience, the way sometimes women, when they give birth, get there because of how they have to birth out the spirit. So we all get connected. So we have the experience, and that experience forever changes you. And that is the journey, right? So that's what I got. That's what I got for this on this episode of Shelby Raw. Okay. I hope you learned something from this. Please give it a thumbs up, share it in your community with people that may not even have this level of awareness for hunting, or their husbands or mates are just now starting to go out there and have this experience. So thank you for liking the video. Leave me a comment if you have hunted, if you have an experience with this. And then thank you for sharing it. Thank you for subscribing to my channel as well. Also hit that bell button because remember, I put out videos every Thursday. So we will see what next Thursday brings in Shelby Raw land. Okay. But this is the big thing for the week. My husband hunted and he provided. All right. So until next Thursday, y'all have a good one.